Let's jump into this first story from Motherboard, Vice.com. Anarchist Collective shares instructions to make DIY abortion pills. DIY medicine collectives are preparing for the horrifying prospect that Roe v. Wade will be overturned. And in this image, I guess that's misoprostol, I suppose. They're saying with the Supreme Court poised to overturn the constitutional right to abortion, constitutional right, an anarchist collective that makes DIY medicine has released detailed instructions for making abortion pills. The group has previously released instructions for making DIY EpiPen and for making, what is that, Daraprim? I don't know. You're the fancy doctor, Lydia. What is that, Daraprim?
Yeah, I can't, Daraprim? Yeah. I've not seen that word.
The pill that made farmer bro Martin Shkreli famous.
Daraprim.
We talked about this a bit on the show that, like, I think it was Thomas Massey, that sheep epinephrine is like $30 for 50 doses. And it's like the same dosage a person gets. And it's like, oh, but you can't take sheep medicine. And I think Thomas was saying, no, it's literally the same thing.
Yeah,
but like an EpiPen is $500 or so.
It's the insurance agencies are colluding with the pharmaceutical companies to spike the prices. You pay your insurance, they pay the claim for you, they raise your insurance, and then you get this overpriced medicine.
Well, I don't know about all that, but what
cartel.
I do know is in the article it says, in the video, Laufer explains that besides being used to medically induce abortions, misoprostol is also used to treat ulcers in horses. This makes misoprostol powder relatively easy to acquire from veterinary sources. This is reminiscent of ivermectin, which is used to control parasites in horses, but also became a favored but ineffective COVID treatment among conspiracy theorists. Ivermectin's use in horses made it easier for humans to get without a prescription. This is amazing. Laufer explains in the video how to dose misoprostol and how to press it into pills using a scale, corn syrup, powdered sugar, a spray bottle, and a pollen press. They explain that a 3-dose regimen of misoprostol is 85% effective in inducing abortion if taken with mifepristone, another abortion pill. If taken with mifepristone, is that how you say that? Yeah. The rate rises to 95% effectiveness though raw mifepristone is harder to source. So what they're actually saying in this is that people who are outraged over the potential overturning of Roe v. Wade have told people to go to the vet to buy horse medicine so they can have abortions. Look, if the worst case scenario about the ivermectin horse paste thing was that it didn't do anything, it didn't do anything. There were some stories about people getting sick because they would eat like a tube of horse paste, and you can't do that. But this actually hurts you. This is like a poison. And now they're advocating for this? My friends.
Well, they've been advocating for poisoning babies for quite a long time.
Look. I know I say this quite a bit. When people go to you and they say, you know, you're lying, your sources of news aren't real or whatever, people say to us, how do I convince my parents or my friends and my family that, you know, the news is fake? Here, this. After everything they said about horse medicine and Joe Rogan and the smears, they're now advocating for it. What more do you need to be like, well, now they're saying take horse pills? I mean, look, if at this point someone can see that, and they think to themselves, well, this one's okay. It's like, okay, you have no interest in being honest and actually talking about what you believe. You have no principles. Whatever, man.
There's a couple layers to this. One is, firstly, it's not horse medicine. It's medicine that they put into a horse paste to feed to horses. Same with ivermectin. It's a medicine that was used in a horse environment sometimes, but it's not horse medicine. It's just medicine. Secondly, I talked about this last night. People are going to be inducing miscarriages now. That's the problem with making it illegal is people are going to keep doing it, and they're going to find probably more dangerous and violent ways to do it. That's my concern anyway. And then this pops up.
Yeah, I mean, I strongly believe that fewer people are going to do it. No law is perfect. You're never going to prevent 100% of any crime you try to deter people from committing, but ultimately making it illegal to have abortions does prevent them. And if it didn't, the left wouldn't really be upset about all this.
You know, to follow up on that point, I thought the same thing about murder, because last night I was thinking about our conversation and like, you know, if murder was legal, there would be a lot more murder.
Yeah.
So there is something to making things illegal and preventing the proliferation of the activity.
Yeah.
I just don't like top down. I don't like saying now it's illegal so no one can do it anymore. Like now it's illegal to have guns so no one can 3D print them anymore. Yeah, right. People are going to still 3D print guns, and you're just going to create a criminal class.
No, I agree. Especially with gun control, it's complicated because people are finding more and more ways to create them and get them. But ultimately, part of the reason why we oppose gun control is because we know it would be harder to get a firearm and fewer of us would be able to if it were implemented. So there is some effectiveness. I mean, gun control certainly is not effective at lowering gun crime or preventing homicide or anything like that, but it is, in some cases, very effective at getting guns out of the hands of law-abiding citizens because the law can be effective.
What do you think, Helena, about all this?
I mean, I'm really conflicted on all of the abortion stuff. I mean, I'm not entirely compelled by the pro-life arguments, but I recognize that a lot of the pro-choice, or I guess pro-abortion arguments are just coming from very seemingly unwell people, and that there's something anti-woman, anti-human, something that just hates motherhood about it, and it really skeeves me out. So I'm just watching all this stuff and just thinking, like, how can we have a conversation about this that isn't completely split between these two?
So the argument for over the past week or so with Elon Musk is that the left, he posted this meme showing the left moving further and further left, and the right's kind of staying where it is, and the center then becomes right wing because the left moves so far left. And the left keeps saying, oh, no, that's not true. That's not happening. My response is, when I was a kid, the right wanted to ban abortion. As I grew up, the left was saying safe, legal, and rare, a compromise, no late-term abortions. Most people in this country, even today, disagree with abortions after the first trimester. That means second trimester and third, no abortions. I think the New York Times reported this, that Roe v. Wade actually stops certain restrictions on abortion in the second trimester, which creates this paradox. But we get to that in a second. So the right today still wants to ban abortion, but now the left wants all restrictions removed, which is a huge leap from where it was when I was younger. Safe, legal, and rare, meaning in the first trimester, if there are certain issues. So the issues that get brought up frequently are ectopic pregnancies, which I suppose the argument, Seamus, you and Matt Walsh brought up is that you don't consider an abortion if it's an ectopic pregnancy.
Yeah. What is that exactly?
It's the principle of double effect. So basically, there are certain medical procedures you might have to perform on a sick woman who happens to be pregnant that could result in the death of the unborn child. And you perform that surgery to save her life. And if the unborn child dies, that's unfortunate. But your intention is not to go in there and kill the child. It's an unintended side effect of the operation. So that isn't considered an abortion.
I think that's
including by certain pro-choice organizations, by the way. Many of them won't call it an abortion. I know WebMD doesn't call it an abortion. I believe Planned Parenthood does not call it pregnancy procedure.
This is the argument that's often made from the left, because I don't think they're having conversations with conservatives, because I think talking to Matt Walsh was particularly enlightening. He said, if you have to he effectively said, you can terminate a pregnancy, but it doesn't mean you have to kill the baby. Meaning at certain points, if you can save the baby's life, why wouldn't you do it? Mm-hmm. So it's like, there's an interesting question, I think, for most pro-abortion people. We should ask, if a woman is pregnant in the second or third trimester, and the baby can safely be removed, ending the pregnancy, but the baby can also be saved, should that be mandated?
Yeah, I think they would say no. It's interesting. You mentioned that the left has become more extreme on this issue, and I completely agree. But on the other hand, I think they've really just become more consistent to their base principle here. On the right, the argument was that this is a human life, and so it has to be protected from conception until natural death. And on the side of the left, it was basically the argument that, like, either we don't know if this is a human life or it outright isn't a human life. And in that case, it doesn't make sense to restrict it at all.
So we were talking a little bit before the show, and Helena was saying, you were saying that you don't have a really strong position on this.
I don't. I'm sorry.
No, you don't have to, because I kind of agree with you. There's I don't have a particularly strong position on this, because it's almost an impossible moral question, and I keep looking to the left for moral arguments, which they don't have. And so I'm like, okay, I don't know. I've heard the arguments.
To me, Tim.
I've heard the arguments from the right, and they're static. Like, here's the argument: life begins at conception. Mm-hmm. Life has rights. The government has to protect the rights of the living. You have two people, and I'm like, there's a really interesting ethical conundrum in here when we're talking about the rights of two people sharing one body and one bloodstream. And then I look to the left, and they say things like, life doesn't begin until first breath. That's a quote from the Bible, I think.
Well, no, it's not from the Bible. There are certain people who have tried to argue that because God breathes life into Adam in the Old Testament, that means that Scripture is saying life does not begin until the first breath. But that's an unbelievable reach. And the prohibition on abortion is one of the earliest Christian teachings. I mean, this dates all the way back to the 1st century, so it's just not true.
Either way, I'm not entirely sure what the left does want. So my position and my family has always been, like what we talk about all the time, is it's safe, legal, and rare. That's the famous saying. Even Tulsi Gabbard was saying it. And it's like, there should be restrictions. And so my position is not particularly strong. I really don't know. And I don't understand why so many people are screaming at the top of their lungs about this, because abortion wasn't even banned. It's just going to a state level thing. So it's like, okay, I don't know, petition your state, vote for your local reps. Or if you're the majority of Democrats and you live in a blue state, you have nothing to worry about.
I think some of it is just sort of your classic, typical histrionic leftist behavior. Every time something goes wrong for them in politics, they end up throwing a tantrum and will even burn down cities, attack people, commit acts of violence. Another part of it is I think there are some number of people whose consciences are genuinely bothered because either they've had an abortion or they've helped someone participate. You know, they've participated in helping someone procure an abortion and they haven't really reconciled with the wrongness of that. And so anything that reminds them that some people don't approve of that behavior really sends them off the edge.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to watch live, you can check out this channel Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Now, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you want more unfiltered and uncensored content with all of these guests, go to timcast.com and become a member. All of these guests you know and love in exclusive segments on our website where we are unrestricted in what we talk about, so you'll definitely not want to miss it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all next time.